So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening again, everyone. This is the International Graduate Students Welcome for School of Graduate Studies Winter 2021. So, if you're a new student starting in winter 2021, this information will be very relevant to you. This webinar will be recorded and captioned and uploaded later onto the School of Graduate Studies website, so you will be able to review it again later. The slides will also be available later in PDF format. So before I get started into the content of the presentation, I would like to acknowledge the land that we will eventually be on. So McMaster recognizes and acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. This, you may have already noticed that many of our courses, many of our instructors, many of our events have this piece of land acknowledgement. This is very important to us because we recognize that we are settlers on the traditional land of the people before us. And if you will eventually get to McMaster or be on McMaster, I recommend for you to discover the history, discover our traditional histories and arts that's available on campus and around the city. So today will be divided to around about 5 different parts. First, we will talk about the School of Graduate Studies as a whole, the services we offer, the different aspect of your graduate journey that's overseen by graduate studies. And then after you get to know graduate studies, you will hear from the head of graduate studies, our dean, Dr. Doug Welsh, to welcome you into McMaster. And then we have other very knowledgeable staff members to talk about campus and community resources available to you as a McMaster International Graduate student and as a McMaster student in general. Last but not least, I know that traveling to Canada is on everyone's minds right now, whether if you're planning to travel or even if you have already got here, because there are just so many things to do, and the world, at least Hamilton, is very different this term than this time last year. So I would like to kind of go over what to do to prepare for your travel, as well as what happens after you get here. And of course, we are answering Q&A as the session is happening, but we will also address any Q&As that's not addressed in the Q&A boxes in the Q&A section at the end of the presentation, and you will be able to ask your questions before you leave for the day. So first, let's talk about School of Graduate Studies. If you haven't been on campus yet, this building is Gilmer Hall, and we are located on the second floor of this building. And School of Graduate Studies is the central administration area and resources for all faculties. So at McMaster, you may belong to a program, and from this program, you belong to a faculty. So for example, the School of Business, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Humanities, and everything there, and all the other faculties. And all these faculties are connected to graduate studies. So graduate studies, we are the central admissions and graduation team. We have the central admission and graduation team. We oversee PhD defenses. We have rules and regulations for all graduate students. And we also have forms and policy for all students as well. We have a scholarships and awards team, a finance team that you may already have heard from on the grad pay inquiries email. And we have a graduate student life team, including a graduate student communications coordinator and an international graduate student counselor, which is myself. So many folks from this team is here today, and they will be answering your questions in the Q&A section. And Judy, our graduate student communications coordinator, will be posting all the links that I share in this presentation into the chat boxes so you can access to them right away. And I'm happy to introduce you to our front desk. If we're on campus right now, you'll be able to meet Kevin yourself. But Kevin is our lovely face behind the Ask Grad email, which takes all general questions about grad studies. You may email the AskGrad at McMaster email for issues related to enrollment, to retrieving online letters from Mosaic, and your photo upload. You may request to update your records, such as name changes or citizenship changes. So for example, if you're in process or applying for permanent residency or other status changes, you will email askgrad@mcmaster.ca once the process is complete to change your status to Mosaic. And he also provides signature for CPP forms and information on petitions such as leave of absences, withdrawals, transferring program, etc. So if you have a question about any aspect of graduate studies in general and you don't know where to go, askgrad@mcmaster.ca is a really great resource. But please note that program-specific questions, such as questions about requirements for your degree, admissions, courses to take, funding, enrollment, they should be asked to your program directly. If you have completed your undergraduate program at McMaster, the structure may be a little different to you because at the graduate level, each program and each faculty may be very, very different. So for example, if you're in a course that requires lab work versus if you're in a program that are less lab intensive, each program may have very different guidelines about enrollment, about timeline for you to complete certain tasks. So if you have questions relating, especially at this time of the year, about your enrollment, about your course requirement, please contact your program directly. Next, we have our scholarships team. Diane from our scholarships team is here to answer your questions about scholarships in the background. She will be here for a little bit after this slide. So if your answer is not answered, if your question is not answered on the slide, please send them to the Q&A section. For international graduate students, they may only apply to merit-based scholarships. There are only a few scholarships currently available at this time in winter 2021, and travel awards are currently open in award spring until February 26. These scholarships are only available in course, which means that students must be fully enrolled to be able to apply. So as mentioned a little earlier, award spring is very important for scholarships and awards because all the applications are managed through award spring. The award spring login tile is in your Mosaic homepage. If you don't see it, please connect with your program just to see if your enrollment status is at its right place. And students complete one application to be matched with all eligible awards. It tracks the completion of any additional applications requirements on a very user-friendly dashboard. So if you haven't completed your profile on AwardSpring, I recommend for you to look into it after this presentation. And if you have any questions after this presentation, you're welcome to email graduatesscholarships@mcmaster.ca. And next, I know as graduate students, a lot of you will be expecting payments from the school for a variety of reasons. And payments for scholarship and employment will be deposited directly to your Canadian bank account. So this means that when you get to Canada, opening a bank account would be one of your priorities, as we cannot deposit payments into any foreign bank accounts. So you may be receiving two forms of funding. The first one is your scholarship funds. So this includes a variety of scholarships include your graduate scholarships, your entrance scholarship, your department scholarship, external scholarships, and tuition bursaries. So depending on what's outlined in your offer, you may be receiving one or more of these scholarships. So these will be in your student center in Mosaic, and please make sure all your information is updated in your student center, and these will be paid to this year via e-transfer. This is a change if you were here in previous terms. Starting this year, this kind of scholarship will be paid to you through e-transfer. If you will be employed as a research assistant or teaching assistant, also known as TA, or you will be receiving research scholarship, you need to make sure that you fill out all the forms that's sent to you by Human Resources, our HR department, and you must provide them with your direct deposit information. If you have any questions about the forms that's sent to you by HR, please reach out to your HR representative, and they may be able to provide you with more accurate recommendations. If you're not in Canada, you will receive sufficient scholarship funds, and they will be transferred from your funding package directly to your student account to offset tuition and supplementary fees for the winter 2021 term. So the money won't be transferred directly to you, but it will be transferred to your student account to offset these fees. Lorna from GradPay is here today in the Q&A section, and she'll be able to answer your related questions as well. After today's session, you're welcome to email gradpay@mcmaster.ca. Many graduate students will be working on or off campus as TAs in Canada, and it is important for you to know that your conditions to work in Canada. To work in Canada, you must have a social insurance number and a Canadian bank account. I will talk a little more about how to get one after you arrive in the travel section later in the presentation. But you will be able to apply for your social insurance number online and get the Canadian bank account after you complete your quarantine. The exact conditions of your work allowance, as determined by the Canadian government, is outlined on your study permit. So if you're not sure about how many hours you're able to work in Canada, please look at your study permit, and it will be outlined very clearly. On campus, according to the graduate calendar, you may work up to an average of 10 hours a week. And please make sure to, again, update your direct deposit information with Human Resources so we can make sure that you're paid on time. If you're not in Canada, so due to the employment requirement of the employer, we're unable to provide TA and RA opportunities until you arrive in Canada. For specific arrangements of your TA and RA position, please contact your program or your supervisor directly, as they're the ones who will be managing your TA assignments and looking at all the requirements for you to fulfill the conditions of your offer. At this time, there are several reminders about things you need to do if you haven't done them already. Please make sure to activate your Mac ID and email. And if you're here right now, then I assume that your email has been activated, which thank you so much, because you will be receiving a lot more information from us throughout the term. Please upload your student card photo. So your student card will be distributed later, and it is very important that your photo is ready so we can print them right away. And update your personal information. So as soon as you have a new address in Canada, please update that information as well, because this may be the address that your student card may be eventually mailed to. There are a few upcoming key dates this month. So January 25th is the tuition deadline, and January 30th is a deadline for you to complete SGS 101 and 201. Next, I'm pleased to introduce my colleague, Andrea Cole, to talk about student life and student resources at McMaster. Andrea?
Thank you so much, Yufei. Welcome everybody to McMaster. We're so happy that you're here to join us for your graduate journey. I'm going to talk about the graduate student life team in the School of Graduate Studies and some of the events and resources that are available to you as graduate students here. So some of the events and workshops that we offer are a great way for you to meet new and returning graduate students and to prepare for your graduate journey. And also a great way to meet with other graduate student leaders through the Graduate Student Association, the International Graduate Student Association, and other staff within the grad school. And a great way to learn about other resources that are available to you and showcase your achievements. So we have on the School of Graduate Studies website, which Judy has posted, there's a link to all the resources that I'm going to talk about today. So some important resources for you as you're getting started here at McMaster. On the student resources page, we have a section all about the supervisory relationship for those who are in a research program or working with any sort of team-based environment. There you'll find a document that's called Getting the Supervisory Relationship Off to a Good Start. And this is actually a printable toolkit that you can print out and use as you're starting your relationship off with your research supervisor or academic supervisor. And this page also contains guidelines around the responsibilities of yourself, your program, and your supervisor. So you can check that out and have a review of those resources there. There's also a section for graduate students with disabilities that talks about the steps that you'll want to take if you require an accommodation. There's some resources around graduate writing and support for writing your thesis or term papers and other library-based research. And career and professional development resources are available, as well as special opportunities such as small grants and other ways to engage with the graduate school community. So there's also a section for you as new graduate students that is really honing in on the steps and opportunities that you'll need to focus on as you get started. So there's instructions and links for different tasks and resources that you'll need to access. There's links to how to register for events such as this, and resources to other campus support as well. And Judy's will post the link in the chat for how to get to that page for those starting in winter 2021. And not to worry if you if you're worried about getting this information in a timely manner, we do email you with a newsletter every week. You don't have to sign up for it. It will come to your inbox automatically. It's actually called The Weekly. And in there, you'll see information about different programming and events and key dates that are relevant to you across the university. So keep an eye out for that newsletter.
Thank you, Andrea. And throughout your graduate student journey, you'll hear from Andrea a lot, as well as myself, about all the events that are going on campus to support your graduate student life. I want to take this opportunity to talk a little about my role as the International Graduate Students Coordinator. And I see a lot of familiar names in the attendees section, and I'm really pleased that is able to make it. And as you may already know, that I am here to support international graduate students throughout their graduate student life experience. And I'm here to also plan programming that addresses and advocates for international graduate student needs. So, for example, the International Grad Navigator virtual cafes, and I also co-chair the International Graduate Student Advocacy Group. And I also connect students to relevant services and resources. I am always available through email, and you may also book in one-on-one appointments with me to talk about anything during your graduate student journey. In addition to this webinar, we also have 5 very helpful webinars that were recorded in the summer. So these webinars talk about starting at McMaster in general, life in Hamilton and in Canada, and off-campus housing and accommodation. So these 3 webinars will be very helpful if you are still planning to start your life in Hamilton, planning to arrive, and especially looking for off-campus housing. This off-campus housing session is especially made for graduate studies, because as graduate studies, you will not be staying on campus for your entire first year, but you will be looking for private housing around campus or in Hamilton in general. I will also highly recommend the International Graduate Student Panel Q&A. So during that session, you will see that different graduate students will talk about their experience as a McMaster student and answer questions posed by students who attended that session. And some of you may have already signed up for the International Grad Navigator program. This is the second semester that we had this program, where I will connect new students with the student who are a current McMaster students who may be a little more experienced at being a McMaster graduate student. And the goal of this program is to make a familiar connection, and I try to connect you to someone who are from similar backgrounds and similar cultures, so you have a familiar voice and a familiar face, with hopefully a familiar experience to guide you through your journey. I have over 50 very, very wonderful navigators, and they're here and they're excited to connect with you. And this is all for the School of Graduate Studies. And I am pleased to introduce Dr. Doug Walsh, the Vice Provost and Dean of Graduate Students, to offer a few words of welcome. Doug?
Thank you very much, Yufei, and thanks to all of you for attending. Thanks especially for putting up with what arguably is likely to be the most challenging year of our lives. I want you to know that since COVID started, making sure that we could have the best possible starting opportunities for our international students has been one of our highest priorities. And we've been spending an enormous amount of effort trying to work through all the twists and turns that various government levels have thrown at us to try and create a path for you to start and for you to arrive in Hamilton. I'm delighted that so many of you have managed to arrive, and I want to, even though it's been a huge team effort, I want to highlight Yufei's role in being an absolutely wonderful connector and being able to answer people's questions and forward those other questions that needed answers or changes to our procedures so that you could get here at the earliest possible time. As you can see, the local situation is we're in lockdown, so our current way of working is going to have to continue for some time. But as you know, we're in a period where there are vaccines, and there is a very strong likelihood that many of the ways that we used to work will reappear later this calendar year. And your opportunities will be more like what you had hoped they would be when you applied. Um, I thank you for hanging in there with us. I do encourage you to connect with the people in the School of Graduate Studies about your questions and to get the answers as early as you can. I know that there are probably a few situations we haven't anticipated, but we work very hard, and I very much hope this is the beginning of a really tremendous experience at McMaster for you, and thank you.
Great, thank you, Doug. So the School of Graduate Studies portion of the presentation will be concluded now. If you have any questions about what I talked about earlier about grad pay, about what School of Graduate Studies can help you with, about your graduate student life, please send them in the Q&A section, and staff from Graduate Studies will be more than happy to provide an answer. And please feel free to review the questions that has already been answered, because some of you may have very similar questions and your answer may be just right there in front of you. Next, we'll talk about campus resources that are outside of School of Graduate Studies that may be relevant to you. And I would like to invite my colleague from International Student Services, Anna Pereira, to introduce everyone to International Student Services.
Thank you, Yufei, and good morning, everyone. As Yufei mentioned, my name is Anna Pereira, and I am the lead coordinator for international students. So under my portfolio, some of the things that I look after, or some of the major things, would be your university health insurance plan, known as UHIP. There's also peer supports, events, workshops, and this year, webinars and online socials. We also have success coaching and immigration and mobility advising. So the pictures that you see right now, we have Anthony, who is our immigration consultant. The title Immigration Mobility Advisor actually belongs to Legipe, who is currently on mat leave, but she will be back in May. So you'll probably start to have some more communication with her since you're just starting now. So she should be back in May. And for success coaching, which grad students are also able to start the conversation, then you'll eventually get transferred over to Yufei. That would be Andrew, and he's back in July because he's on paternity leave. It's been a really busy year for us. But you can also reach out to me or to Andrea for any of those questions. And if it's something that we don't know or not familiar with, or perhaps you should be connected to someone else in grad studies, we will do that for you. So appointments with us can be booked online. As you all know, we're not at the office, so you can book one-on-one appointments with us on Oscar Plus. If there are any MBA students who are listening, you actually don't have access to our Oscar Plus booking or any of our events online. That does not mean you can't participate. That just means we have to just manually put you in. So even when you receive emails about certain workshops that our office does, you can attend, you just have to email us and we'll manually add you to those. So same thing for appointments. And that would just be for the MBA students and not for just the regular grad, master's or PhD stream. You should have access to those. Next. Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the University Health Insurance Plan. So in a typical year, it's not as confusing, but of course with COVID, things are very different this year. And there's a lot of exceptions or exemptions that normally would not be given. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview, and don't be afraid if it gets a little confusing, because even for us, it's a day-by-day type thing. So what is consistent is the timing and the price. So this year, September 1st to August 31st, that's the time that your UHIP is valid. And that's every year. So it's always from September 1st to August 31st. This year, in terms of pricing, it's $720 for 12 months of single coverage. It is also mandatory to add your dependents if they are here with you in Canada. So dependents meaning your spouse and your children. So not family in terms of mother, father, brother, sister, cousins, whomever. If they do come to visit you in Canada, when those borders become open, they would have to get their own travel insurance because they don't qualify for UHIP. So the prices are there. After 3 people of being on the UHIP plan, so let's say it's yourself, a spouse, and a child. If you have other children, there's no additional cost to add them, but they are fully covered just as you and your other family members are. So enrolling into the UHIP plan is actually automatic. So as long as you are a registered active student, you have courses enrolled, and you are registered as an international student, you will be automatically enrolled into the UHIP plan. For dependents, you have to let me know. Remember, we have a ton of students, and it's impossible for us to know if you're married or if you have a spouse or your common law or whatever it is, or you have children. That's impossible, and it's information we don't gather because you are the student and not your family. So you have to come and let me know, either through, in this case, through email, that your family's here, and then I will add them to the UHIP plan for you. Next, please. So what does UHIP cover? It's actually easier to tell you what UHIP does not cover, because UHIP is basically the equivalent of Canadian citizens or permanent residents OHIP. So things like hospitals, walk-in clinics, surgeries, blood work, like those bigger doctor's visits, walk-in clinics, things like that, that's covered under your UHIP plan. What is not covered your UHIP plan, which also is not covered under our provincial OHIP plan, would be your supplementary health and dental. So those things are like vision, dental, prescription medications. If you break a leg and you need crutches, those things do not fall under the UHIP plan. Those would fall under your supplementary health and dental plan. So if you are an MBA student, your plan is called the MSU, which is the McMaster Students Union Health and Dental Plan. And if you are a grad student, it would fall under the GSA. So if you are a grad student who is TAing, your dental portion of that moves over to QP. So yes, it sounds confusing. And this is all kind of done like automatically. So if once the GSA receives a list that you are either a TA or an RA, they will move your dental over to QP. Just remember, just like you come and add your family members to the UHIP plan, the UHIP plan does not communicate with the MSU plan or the GSA plan in terms of sharing your information. It's all confidential. So if you come and add them to the UHIP plan, you have to add them as well to the GSA plan. And again, I'm not sure if the GSA plan is mandatory, but as someone who has a family, you want to have your family protected because healthcare in Ontario is very expensive. So you don't want to be paying $700, $800, $900 to go see a dentist when you could have been covered under the GSA and had that covered for you. So always add them in a timely fashion. Their dates are also a little bit different from ours in terms of when you can add your dependents, but their coverage dates are the same. So again, the coverage is September 1st to August 31st. To add dependents for the UHIP plan, you have 30 days from their arrival date in Ontario to add them. And for the GSA, it works a little bit different. So you would have to check on their website to see how their terms work and when you can add them, because I believe they work more through a term process, but you can connect with them as well. Next. Okay, so here comes all the changes due to COVID. So if you are not in Canada, so I'm assuming you're all first, you're starting your degree now, you have January intakes. So if you are not in Canada, you will be able to be exempt from the UHIP plan. One thing that you will notice is if you go look at your student accounts right now, you are being charged $720 for UHIP. That does not mean that your year starts January 1st to December 31st. So the UHIP year is the same as your academic year. So it would be September 1st to August 31st. So Mosaic knows that you're here, but Mosaic doesn't actually know when you started in terms of UHIP. So that is why you were charged from September. So if you are not in Canada, you will be getting, or everyone will be getting, an email from me in the next week or so. And then there's going to be 2 different processes for students who are in Canada and students who are not in Canada. So if you are not in Canada, we're basically exempting you from January to August. you're going to be exempt for the winter and the spring summer term. Just it makes it easier on our side to manage that a little bit. And then if you do come in, let's say things get better and you're able to travel and come into Canada in May, you would connect with me once you arrived and we would activate your UHIP at that point. So those are for students who are not in Canada. Students who are in Canada, like I said, you will be charged the $720, which would be for the 12 months. So if you are in Canada, you are going to send me your flight itinerary if you arrived, or if you've always been in Canada, you just let me know that you have been, your student number. And also, if you're starting in January, you're going to have to send me your offer letter for January, because that will be your proof that you were not here in September, you were not a registered student. So I can remove those 4 months of charges that you're going to see in your student account as of right now, which means that if you are in Canada and you're starting in January, you will only be charged from January to August for $480 for a single person. If your family's here with you, then you also have to send me their passport photo page, their flight itinerary, if applicable, so that we can add them as well. So those are the two different scenarios. So please don't send me anything right now. This will be sent out to you in an email. I'm just finishing off processing all the exemptions for the winter for current students. So once that is finished, you will be receiving an email from me, and then we can start the process from there. Next. Okay, I think I'm good.
Thank you, Anna. And as you've seen, Anna is very, very knowledgeable about UHIP and your health insurance. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email Anna directly. And I recognize in this time, health is more salient in her life more than ever. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions concerning the health services you have access to. And I will talk briefly about a few other resources that you may want to explore or learn more about in your graduate student journey. So first, I think we mentioned this a bit earlier, is Model and the Merge program. So the Model program is essentially stands for McMaster Office for the Development of English Language Learners. In the Model Office, they offer lessons, workshops, and support to improve your English language proficiency. And one-on-one help is also available if you want to meet with an experienced English language instructor to address your individual needs. So for example, when you just get your first piece of assignment back, or when you're preparing for your piece of a first assignment, it may be helpful for you to make an appointment with Model just to go over things that you may be concerned about. So all the services that Model offers is free for McMaster students, and I highly, highly encourage you to attend their workshops and utilize their resources. Model also offer this program called Merge. They have very smart names over there. And it stands for McMaster English Readiness and for Graduate Excellence. So this program is available to graduate students, and it helps graduate students break down their academic and professional barriers. And this program is available for students whose first language may not be English. So this program is not only available to international students, but also other students who may need similar supports. It's a 6-week intensive program, and it does have a tuition or a fee associated with it. But in the past, they've also announced scholarships to help students to get involved in programs without paying the fees. Once the next cohort comes up, we'll make sure to let you know about the program through our weekly newsletters. And next, as we move online, we began to realize how important this part of the university really is. So this is our University Technology Services, and may be referred to as UTS. So they are the department in the university that's in charge of everything technology, including your online access to services and other services that are available to you. As a new student, I would recommend for you to activate your Office 365 because many of your courses or your interactions with staff members or your professors may be on Microsoft Teams. So even if you haven't had the need to activate your Teams yet, I would recommend for you to do so before you actually really need it because it is a very good resource. And I notice more staff members are having their appointments on Teams. And the Office 365 also include applications such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, and they are all tied to your McMaster email. And if you're not in Canada right now, you may need a virtual private network, also known as a VPN. Not everyone outside of Canada will need it, but if you do, this is where you may find more information. There's also a ExpressVPN available for students currently located in China. So if you want more information about how to activate your Office 365 and or how to access a VPN, please go to uts.mcmaster.ca. They also have a online chat function, which if you have any questions, you can submit them on the online chat. And in my experience, they usually respond really quickly and the staff at UTS are very helpful. Next, your health and wellness is very important to us, and there are several areas in McMaster where you may find to provide additional support for your journey. So the first I would like you to be introduced to is the student accessibility services. The student accessibility services provides academic accommodation and assistance that are related to supports to students with disabilities. So if you, even if you don't have a disability in the past or have connected with anyone in the past and you suspect that you may require service in this area or require regular academic accommodations, please feel free to explore the services they have available or make an appointment with someone in the department to discuss your needs. Because there may be needs that you don't even know that you may benefit from yet. And I would really highly recommend for you to address any of these needs before you're too deep into the term. Next, we have the Student Wellness Center. If you have arrived in Canada recently and quarantined at our residence, you may already be very familiar with the Student Wellness Center. So the Student Wellness Center addresses physical and mental wellness needs and provides counseling, medical services, and wellness programs. You can learn more about their services at wellness@mcmaster.ca. Last but not least, I will highly recommend you to explore Open Circle. So Open Circle is a very diverse and consensus-based community where McMaster students can discuss life, spirituality, and societal issues. They have a lot of events that happens every week. If you sign up for their newsletter, you'll be informed of those. And they also have longer workshops and sessions where they help you to get in touch with the spiritual aspect of your life. And they also have volunteering opportunities available in the broader Hamilton community. So I would say Open Circle is a very unique department at McMaster, and I think everyone could benefit from their services. And next, I would like to bring your attention to our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office. So every student may have a very different perspective and understanding of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So no matter where you are in this understanding and your involvement in the advocacy for equity, diversity, and inclusion, this office is available for all students at McMaster. This office's goal is to promote and support institution-wide commitment to equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. It oversees the human right and dispute resolutions. It offers inclusion and anti-racism education. It offers accessibility programs and sexual violence prevention and response information and team. They also host the policies for accessibility, the discrimination and harassment policy, and the sexual violence policy. If you wish to learn more about equity and diversity at McMaster, please feel free to go to equity@mcmaster.ca and even connect with one of their staff members. If you want to learn more just about equity and diversity in general, we will have events in the term where we invite someone from the office to talk to all international graduate students. And if you just want to chat about it or have something that you want to share and not sure where to go, please also feel free to book a one-on-one appointment with me. I understand this is a very important aspect in all of our lives, and some of us, including myself, may not be totally familiar with the principles or with what we can do and what we have the rights to. So I'm happy to discuss what the office does with you and maybe introduce you to other folks in the office. And of course, beyond McMaster departments and offices, we also have community resources that are available to students and folks in in Hamilton in general. So for this section, I would like to invite one of the co-presidents of the International Graduate Student Association, JC, to introduce you to the International Graduate Student Association and talk about other organizations you may be involved to as a McMaster international grad student.
Thanks, Yufe, for the introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is JC. I'm a PhD student in my last year, and I'm part of the physics department. And I was also one of the co-president with Sebastian, which was also here on the call, of the International Graduate Student Association for the last couple of years. So just to introduce you to what IGSA is, IGSA is operated for and by international graduate students. So you could be part of IGSA if you wanted to help other international students. What we do is mostly we host social and educational events. We advocate for international graduate students. And one of the role of the co-president is also to sit as a co-chair of the International Graduate Student Advisory Group, which I think I will talk about a little bit later. But basically, to give you an example of things we do, especially during COVID, we've been running a lot of virtual events to make sure people stay connected because we're all working from home. We don't have we can't have interaction with anybody else. So we try to have interaction over Zoom. And the last couple events that we've had were trivia events, or language cafes, a lot of fun events where you can meet other people. So as I said, I'm currently a co-president with Sebastian, but as I'm expected to graduate by the end of the year, we just recently elected two new co-presidents that are Nikita and Pallavi, and I think they are in the attendance right now. So welcome to them, and you won't have to interact with me too much, but with them, hopefully you get to meet them very soon. If you want to be updated about what we do as IGSA, you can join the Facebook group that is linked here. And I think it's also in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at igsa@mcmaster.ca. So now I'm just going to try to give you a bit of a review of everything else that you can access as an international student, but also just as a grad student. So the first the main association, and we're a subgroup of that, is the Graduate Student Association. Again, it's run by graduate students, and it's dedicated to improving the life of graduate students. But they do a lot more. They also take care of your health and dental, depending if you're a TA or not. But Anna touched on that already. In a normal year, they would have sport leagues, especially in the summer. So you can play sports with them. There's a small league. There's a Phoenix restaurant, which I'm assuming is closed right now. But otherwise, it's a great place to go after work. And they also take care of a lot of things like the grad student groups. They have faculty reps, so it's a really great place to get involved if you want it to be. And it's a bit more general than IGSA because they take care of every single student on grad student on campus. Then there's the IGSA. I won't go over that again because we've just talked about it. And then there are a lot of other groups that might be relevant to you. So there's the McMaster grad parents. So if you're parents, it's a great way to connect with others. If you are from engineering, there's EGS, the engineering graduate student. If you're from science, there's another association, which is the Science Grad Student Association. And if you are, that might be relevant for you if you're from Africa or Caribbean, there's the African Caribbean Grad Student Association, which we work really close. We have events with them. So, oh, and I just seen the chat that the Phoenix food is available through Uber Eats for the month of January. So that might be an option for you if you want to try their food. Okay. And there's a link as well at the bottom here where you can find all of the clubs that are on campus, because I can't go over all of them. There's just way too many. Now, if you are a TA or a research assistant, your union is QP 3906. So they will protect you under the collective agreement. They will negotiate the rate at which you're paid every couple of years. If you have any issues with your supervisor that you're TAing for, you can reach out to them. They will help you. And there's also an international officer, so that takes care in particular for international students that are TAing. So you can go on their website and you can get more details. So that's only if you are a TA or RA. Then if we look outside of campus, there's a group that's called Global Hamilton Connects. There's a lot of resources there for all international students in Hamilton, but it's not only for international students. It's really for everyone. I think I might be wrong on that one. It's for people that are come from abroad and they're living in Hamilton now. So they have immigration seminars and events like that. And then there's a lot of resources on just the City of Hamilton webpage, and especially in the link when you move to Hamilton. That's listed here. Yeah, and that's about it for me. So hopefully you get involved with IGSA. Maybe I'll get to meet you, maybe not, but I'm sure you'll get to meet Nikita and Pallavi in the near future.
Thank you, JC. And yes, please get involved in with the IGSA. JC and Sebastian are both very lovely co-presidents, and I hope that you get a chance to meet them or meet them virtually before they graduate and go off to something even better. Okay, so in this section, I will talk about traveling to Canada. And as Doug mentioned, this year is a very, very special year, and it continues to be throughout your journey. So, and I know that traveling to Canada is on a lot of people's minds right now, and it could be very confusing, especially depending on the travel situation in your home country and also in Canada. So this is the process basically for you to prepare for your arrival to McMaster as of today. So I cannot guarantee that things won't change in the next few months or in the next term semester or in any time in this year. But we will send you any updates that we hear, and we will try to give you all the information you need in order to arrive in Canada safely. I would like to direct your attention first to two very important pages. So the first one is the International Graduate Student Traveling to McMaster page. On that page, everything you need to know about traveling to McMaster is outlined, and any updates we have will also be updated on that page. So if you're ever confused about traveling or the current guidelines about McMaster students traveling to Canada, please use that page as a reference. Next is the International Student Quarantine Stays page. So that page outlines all the available dates that international students can arrive at McMaster, and it will be very important in your travel planning as the dates may help you decide on which date you would like to arrive. We've broken up the travel experience into 4 steps, and I will explain these steps in greater detail in the upcoming slides. But essentially, it's broken down into preparing for travel. So this is before you start making your quarantine plan. And step 2, complete your booking. So this is after that you've decided on an arrival date and start booking for your quarantine plan. Prepare for arrival. This is after you booked all the plans and you're getting ready to get on the plane. And of course, after arrival, because there are a few things that I would recommend for you to do after you land in Canada. So step 1 is for you to prepare for travel. Currently, the Canadian government requires that all international traveling to Canada needs to have an approved study permit or a valid study permit. If you have never been to Canada before, or this is your first time to arrive in Canada as an international student, you will receive a letter that says your study permit is approved. So when you bring this letter to the border agent will then be able to issue you your actual study permit. So don't worry if you don't have a study permit in hand, you will receive it with your letter that confirms your study permit's approval. After you get your study permit approval, please check the International Student Quarantine Stays page for available arrival dates. So currently, arrivals on January 20th and afterwards are all available. There are different cohorts of arrival dates that if you book an arrival date on one of those dates, your room will be guaranteed. So please check that page before booking your flight to make sure that quarantine rooms are available when you arrive. And once you have your flight confirmation, flight information, you may send that information to me directly. So the exact information is requested is available on the International Grad Student Traveling to McMaster page. As a brief overview, you will need to send me your name, student number, program of study, and your flight information and your country of origin. We keep track of all the information associated with your travel, just so we can provide you the support you need in case we hear about anything that have to do with your specific travel plans or if anything changes. So after I receive your confirmed information and your arrival date is within one of the available cohorts, you will then receive 2 booking links to complete your plans for quarantine booking. So please note at this time, it is mandatory for you to book both services as approved by the McMaster Quarantine Readiness Plan. And I know that this requirement is not specifically outlined on the government website. However, the government website did indicate that your institution needs to be on the list of designated learning institutions that has been approved by the province. So for McMaster to be on that list, we have indicated to our province and local governments that McMaster international students will be required to utilize McMaster's quarantine plan. And this plan includes both the room booking as well as the airport transportation. The cost of room reservation and food delivery is all covered by McMaster. We realized since this is a required service that you must utilize, we will be able to cover the cost of your room reservation and food delivery. When you start the booking, you may realize that the housing reservation team may put you down for 17 or 19 days instead of 14. Please don't be worried. This is just a way for them to reserve the rooms just in case something were to happen or if you were required to stay in your quarantine for longer than expected. And the cost for however long you need to stay in your quarantine will also be covered. You are responsible for the cost of the airport transportation services from the airport that you arrive to McMaster. Usually, international students will usually arrive at the Toronto Pearson Airport. Once you complete both bookings, please forward your booking confirmations to me, and I will issue your personalized quarantine confirmation letter after everything is confirmed. So your personalized quarantine confirmation letter will be very useful for you to give to the border agent to show that McMaster is on the approved DLI list and McMaster supports your travel. This letter is very important because without this letter, you may not be able to enter Canada. So I also recommend for you to, once you receive the links from me, to complete the process as soon as possible, just in case that anything changes, and we will have enough time to issue you your letter. After you complete all the bookings and receive your letter, there's a few other reminders that I will send to you along with your letter. And especially at this time, two very important reminders from the government. So the first one is to submit your travel information on ArriveCan before you board the plane. You may be able to submit this information after you arrive in Canada before you go through customs as well. But I would highly recommend for you to upload and submit all the information on ArriveCan before you travel, just to avoid the stress of having to submit this information, connect to Wi-Fi after you right before customs. So customs and the border agent will require you to show them the receipt of submitting your information on ArriveCan. And starting earlier this month, it is now required for all international travelers. This includes Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and of course, international students to present a negative COVID-19 test to their airlines before they can board a plane. So this is a government requirement. However, the exact processes and will be managed by the airlines. So if you have any questions about how to submit this test, where they will be reviewing this test, and how the airlines will determine who's able to board the plane, please contact your airline directly. There are some answers to commonly asked questions on the Canadian government website, but if you have any questions about the exact processes or information about maybe exceptions or different guidelines for your country of origin, please contact your airline along with reviewing the information from the government. And finally, after arrival, we're always happy to learn about when students arrive safely. And so far, thankfully, all the students with the letter have arrived as planned. When you arrive, you do not have to email me again to check in. When you log on to the link given to you by our residence team, you will receive an automatic check-in link. I think you will only need your student number to let the system know that you are here. And I would recommend to do that as soon as possible because the reservation team will follow up with you if they don't receive your check-in as expected within a certain amount of time. And after you arrive, as Anna said, I would recommend for you to reach out to Anna as early as possible to reactivate your UHIPs. So Anna will require information such as your student number, your flight itinerary, or your boarding pass. And if you have any dependents with you, information about your dependents as well. You will also receive more information about the upcoming COVID-19 tests that you will have to get before you complete your quarantine at McMaster. And of course, if you have a TA or RA or employment role, you can apply for your social insurance number online. And please, please do not leave your room until you complete your quarantine. We are very serious about complying with government guidelines, and if and we're dedicated to making sure that students do not leave their quarantine rooms before getting the clear COVID-19 test at the end of their quarantine. And of course, we realize that arriving in Canada during the winter may be a bit more difficult than, for example, arriving in the summer, just maybe because there's more snow, more ice on the ground than winter. And in the current situation, some of the services that you may usually be available may be closed. So I'm happy to invite you to our next virtual cafe event where we will talk about spending winter 2021 in Canada, talk about the current situations, and share some experiences with other students about how winter 2021 may be different and how to live in Hamilton and start your life in Hamilton during this time. You will receive a link to this event later this week from McMaster Graduate Studies. And this is all for today's event. Thank you all so much for coming. We have some time left to address some questions that you may have, so please send them through the Q&A function. If all your questions have been answered today and you are eager to get some coffee or some other snacks or beverages, please feel free to sign off. This webinar will be recorded, has been recorded, and will be captioned and uploaded. And when it's available, we will send out an email to let you know. The slides that we used today at the webinar will also be available to everyone. So let me just look at the question section. And thank you so much to everyone answering questions in the background. So I see a question about social insurance number. So as you may already know that all the Service Canada locations are closed and are operating at limited services, the Government of Canada has two ways for you right now to apply for your social insurance number. One is online and one is through mail. I highly recommend for you to apply for your social insurance number online because it is a lot faster. It will get processed faster and you will get your card faster, and you don't have to mail original documents over across the country. So if you mail your document, there's a risk of them getting lost or delivered late, especially during this time. So the link to apply for your social insurance number is shared in the chat function. If you click on that link, there will be very detailed information on the government website. And a question about submitting study permit. So the requirement to submit your study permit is from your program. So I would recommend to connect directly with your program about the deadline and their requirements. More questions about the social insurance number. I can't provide an exact answer to how long it may take for it to be processed. All we can do at this point is to recommend for you to submit your application as soon as possible, so it will arrive as soon as it's ready. Question. So I will prioritize the questions about the quarantine plan, as I know that my colleagues are answering the other questions very fast. So I have a question regarding they received their quarantine plan, but they didn't receive the confirmation of the room reservation yet. So our reservation team over at Housing and Conference Services are prioritizing arrivals happening within the next couple of days or the upcoming week. So if you have received your quarantine confirmation letter from me, this means that they have confirmed that your request for reservation will be approved and you will be assigned to a room. If you don't receive your confirmation, your check-in information, I would say 3 days before you're set to travel, I would recommend for you to email reserve@mcmaster.ca directly. But under our current timeline, you will receive the check-in information a few days up to a week before your actual arrival. Okay, and I see all the other questions are being answered. Okay, so if there's no additional questions, I will close the webinar after these questions are answered, and you'll be able to have a few minutes to review all the answered questions. And if you think of anything after the webinar, you are also welcome to contact me directly at zheny37@mcmaster.ca, and I'm happy to provide answers to you through email or direct you to the correct department.